Lesson 22. The new work in this lesson is using the distributive property. We've used the distributive property previously, and so I just want to review what the distributive property means. The distributive property is indicated when we have a number that is not a number cube right next to a set of parentheses. Remember, I know that if there's a number next to an X or a star, it's not a number cube. The number cubes are the numbers that are all by themselves. They might have a plus, or they might have a minus after them. I'm looking for one with a minus after it, but they will not have an X right next to it, or they will not have a set of parentheses. So I know this is not a number cube. What this number is telling me is it is saying whatever is inside of the parentheses, you have to make two sets of that. So we're going to use the distributive property to do that. And I am going to change all subtractions to additions first. So this is a subtraction, so I'm going to change it to an addition and change the number after it to its opposite. Since that was a positive 3, it's now going to be a negative 3. And this is a number block when it's inside the parentheses. You can have numbers inside the parentheses. When the number is right next to the parenthesis on the outside, it is not a number block, but you can have number blocks inside the parentheses. And then I have a 4 block right here. I'm going to go ahead and go through all of these and box in my number blocks and change my subtractions to addition. So I'm going to change this subtraction to an addition and this to its opposite. And so that is a number block right there. But this means make 3 groups of this. This is not a number block. Here I have an addition. Here I have a number block. It's a negative 5. And here I have a number block. It's a negative 6. Oops, forgot that negative 9 right up above. And then down here on number 4, this is not a number block, but inside I have a subtraction. So I'm going to change that to an addition. And I'm going to change or box in that to show that it's a number block. Here I have a number block, the 4 all by itself. And this 3 is not because it's not right next to an X. So let's start setting these up with our manipulatives. This means make 2 sets of this. The way we do it when we don't use manipulatives is we say, I'm going to multiply everything inside of the parentheses by the number that is outside of the parentheses. And I always have my kids draw the arrows. So this becomes 2 times x, which is 2x. And then this is 2 times negative 3, which is negative 6. A positive times a negative is a negative. So this actually simplifies to 2x plus negative 6. You can certainly think of it as making 2 groups of this, and you can show that just simply by putting your 2 blue pawns, and you can even put, oh, these are negatives, 2 negative 3s there. That does make negative 6. So you can put negative 3 there, you can put negative 6, whatever you want. Then it says to add 5 white pawns. It's getting crowded. As a matter of fact, I'm going to move that one over there. And on the other side of the equal sign, I'm going to have 2 white pawns. and a 4 block that is green. Okay, so I have quite a mess here. I've got multiple colors, I've got everything going on. But again, I always want to ask myself, which side has the least number of pawns? Well, one of the things I can do right away is I can say this is a 0 pair. It's on the same side of the equal sign, the blue and the white are, and so this is a 0 and I can take that off, and this is a 0 so I can take that off, and that makes things simpler, and I can see I still have 2 white pawns here and I have 3 on the left. So this side has fewer, I'm going to pull them down. This side, I have to pull down the exact same number on the left that I do on the right. So I'm going to pull 2 down on the left. Now I'm left with a -6 plus something has to be a +4. And if I'm not sure how to solve that, I can do it simply by trying to isolate my variable. That means get my variable all by itself without this pesky red 6 here. So I'm going to pull that red 6 down. But if I pull a red 6 down on the left, I have to pull a red 6 down on the right. And I don't have a red 6 on the right. But I can make a 0 and I can get a red 6 over there. Notice I'm not just adding a red 6 to pull down. I have to add the pair because together this is 0. So I'm going to put this right here, and now I have a red 6 I can pull down, and now my answer is very clear. 1 white pawn is equal to 10. So on my answer sheet, my white pawns are my stars, and so if that is equal to 10, then my x has to be the opposite of 10. So remember, I have the same digit, I just have the opposite sign with it. To do my check, I have to move everything back up. You can put those zeros back on if you want, but they still are simply 0. This is a +10, this is a -10. That's 0. +10, -10, that's 0. This is a +10, this is a +10, and this is a +10. So these pawns altogether are 30. 3 times 10. Now this is a -6. So I have 30 plus a -6. And that is going to give me 24. So my value on this side is 24. Over on the other side, here I have this 0. I can leave it on or I can take it off. I'm going to choose to take it off. Here I have 10, 20 plus 4. That's 24. If I would have left this on, I would have said 24 plus 6 is 30 and plus a -6 is 24. I still get back to 24 even when I leave my zeros, my 0 pairs on there. So my check is 24 equals 24. New problem. Again, I have parentheses, and this time I have a 3. So that means I'm going to make 3 sets of everything inside the parentheses. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And to write this out, it would be 3 times x, which would be 3 x's, plus 3 times -1 is going to be -3. And that's still a block. So this part of the equation simplifies to 3x plus -3. The other way you could do it is you could add an x and you could add a -1. That's what x plus -1 looks like. And then you could do that again. And then you could do that again if you had another -1 block, which you probably don't. So I'm going to change this to a -3 because 3 negative 1s is a -3. Now I have to add 2 blue pawns. I'm still on the left side. And then on the right, I'm going to have 3 blue pawns and a white pawn and a -9 block. So now I can start looking at solving my problem. Pawns on both sides, numbers on both sides. The good news is the numbers are the same color. I have a 0 pair there, so I can simply take that away. Now I have less blue pawns on the right than I do on the left. Pull down all the blue pawns, pull down the same number of blue pawns on the other side. So now my problem is 3 blue pawns plus 3 is equal to, or excuse me, -3 is equal to -9. Well, I would really like to not have that 3 block there, so I'm going to pull it down. And if I pull down a -3 on this side, I have to pull down a -3 on this side. So I'm going to trade this -9 out for a -3 block and something else that adds up to -9. So -3 and -6 make -9. So I'm going to trade this for that. Notice this 9 does not stay there. So now I still have a -9 because a negative plus a negative is a negative, but I have a 3 I can pull down. Now I have 3 blue pawns. 3 times what equals -6? -2, -2, -2. So each of the blue pawns are -2. Blue pawns are x's. They are -2. The white pawns are the opposite of the blue pawns. So if this is -2, this one is 2. To do the check, I'm going to move everything back up. And this is a nice one because I can count by 2s. Well, -2, -2, -4, -6, -8, -10 plus -3 is -13. So I have -13 on this side. On the other side, I have -9 plus -2 is -11 plus another 2 is -13. So my check is -13 equals -13. So it looks like I did the problem correctly. If when I substitute the values back into my equation, I get an expression that is true, -13 does equal -13, then most likely I've done the problem correctly. So I'm going to use the distributive property again. This time I'm going to have, instead of 1 star, I'm going to have 2 of them. And I'm adding, and instead of 1 5 block, I'm going to have 2 -5 blocks or a -10. So I'm going to set up my problem now that I know what this is. 2 white pawns plus a -10 block plus another white pawn is equal to a blue pawn plus a -6. Now on this problem, I don't have any 0 pairs I can take off, but I notice that I've got more white pawns on this side than I have pawns on this side. So I'm going to slide this pawn down so that I'm only left with a number. I always start on the side with the least number of blue pawns. So slide that one down. I have to slide a blue one on the other side down. I don't have it, so I have to make a 0 pair. A white one and a blue one together are a 0 pair. I'm going to add them, add that 0, and now I have a blue to pull down. So this is looking better. I have 4 white pawns and a red block, a 10, negative 10, equals negative 6. So I would rather not have this negative 10 there. So that means that, this is going to get complicated. If I slide this down, then I am going to need to make a 10, let's see, running out of blocks. I'm going to have to make a 10 0 pair, and because I don't have another 10 block, I'm going to use 2 5s, but this positive 10 plus this negative 10 makes 0, so I'm going to put that on there, and I'm going to pull down my 10 because negative 5 and negative 5 is negative 10. So now I have to do the math right here. I have a positive 10 and a negative 6. Positive 10 and negative 6 is positive 4. The positive number is larger. It's a 10. The absolute value of 10 is 10. The absolute value of negative 6 is 6. I subtract the smaller value, absolute value, from the larger absolute value, and I get 4. And then I take the sign of the larger number, which was 10, so it's a positive 4. That means that something plus something plus something plus something has to equal 4, and that's easy. These are all 1s. So my star is a positive 1. My x value is a negative 1. When I move them all up to do my check, I can see that I have a 0. I can take back off here, and I'm back to my regular problem that I started with. So let's start seeing what I have here. 1, 2, 3, 4, there's 4, and minus 1, that's 3, and a negative 10, that's negative 7. Looking at it another way, here's a 0 pair I could take off, and I have a negative 10 plus 1 is negative 9, plus another one is negative 8, plus another one is negative 7. Over here I have a negative 6, and my blue pawn is negative 1. A negative plus a negative is a negative, so I just combine these together and I get negative 7. So my check works. Negative 7 is equal to negative 7. Number 4. I'm going to use my arrows again. 2 times 2 white pawns. When I double 2 white pawns, I'm going to get 4 white pawns. And I'm adding again, and this time I'm going to be doubling a negative 3 block. So that's going to give me a negative 6 block. So when I set this up, I'm going to have 4 white pawns, and I'm going to have a negative 6 block. I'm going to have a blue pawn, and then I'm going to have a positive 4, a white pawn, and 3 blue pawns. So looking at my problem, I'm going to look for 0 pairs to simplify the problem. These two can go together because they're on the same side of the equal sign, so I can take them off. And then over on this side of the equal sign, I have these that I can take off. You can't pair them across the equal sign. They have to be on the same side of the equal sign. Now, I have fewer pawns on this side, So I'm going to pull down these two blue ones. And if I pull down two blue on this side, I have to pull down two blue on this side. So I'm going to add one 0 pair and one more 0 pair because I need two blues to pull down. So now I'm pulling those down. Here I am again. I've got 5 pawns, 5 white pawns, and a 6 block is equal to 4. And I don't have a 6 block to pull down over here, so I can make a 0 pair using 6s. I can put this on here, and now I have a 6 block to pull down. And I'm left with 6 plus 4. 6 plus 4 is 10. That is equal to 5 times what? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pawns, so they each must have a value of 2. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So in this case, my white pawn has a positive value of 2 because these are the green blocks that are left here. That means that my blue pawn is the opposite of positive 2, which is negative 2. And to do my check, I move everything back up. I'm going to take off my zeros because they just make counting a little more complicated. Here I have a negative 6, and these are equal to 2. So I have 2, 4, 6, I have a positive 6, and I have negative 6. Well, that's equal to 0. Positive 6 and negative 6 is 0. Let's see if I have 0 on the other side. This is a negative 2 because my pawns, my blue ones, are negative 2, negative 4, and here's a positive 4. Negative 4 and positive 4 is 0. So my check is 0 equals 0. Sometimes kids get confused by that, but we can have a check where both sides are negative. We can have a check where both sides are positive. And we can have a check where both sides are 0.